Hi, I'm Marla. I gave my sister a place to stay while I was away, just 2 weeks. When I came back, my $350K townhouse was empty. She'd taken everything and told the world I had gifted it to her out of pity. My name, my story, my home, rewritten. Why would someone do that to their own sister? And why did my parents believe her? Have you ever been painted as the villain in your own story? What did you do? What time are you hearing this? The sound of the taxi door slamming behind me should have felt like a return. Instead, it echoed. The air outside my townhouse was still, but wrong. A little too quiet. A little too careful. It wasn't the silence that startled me. It was the way it felt like something was holding its breath. I unlocked the front door and pushed it open. My heart stalled. The foyer was empty. Not just tidy. Empty. The rug was gone. The console table, gone. Even the small ceramic bowl I kept my keys in, gone. My heels clicked against bare hardwood as I stepped deeper into the house. Living room? Cleared. My custom velvet sofa, the mid-century glass coffee table I drove 6 hours to find, vanished. Even the throw pillows, embroidered by hand by a woman in Santa Fe who only made $12 a year, gone. Dining room? Empty. My grandfather's mahogany table, the chairs with the dove gray velvet cushions, the vintage bar cart, all missing. I stood there, throat burning, vision blurring. Not from tears, from the kind of rage that doesn't scream, it strangles. I grabbed my phone. Cassidy picked up on the third ring. "Hey, you're back early. Where is everything?" I asked. My voice was too calm. It scared me. A pause. "You said I could take what I needed." My stomach dropped. No, I didn't. You told me. When I was crying about the divorce, when I had nowhere to go, you said, "Whatever you need, take it." I thought you meant it. That was a figure of speech. I thought you were finally trying to be supportive, for once. I didn't even respond. I just ended the call. Later that day, I received a letter. Official-looking envelope, heavy paper, letterhead that screamed legitimacy. It was from a law firm, representing Cassidy. The letter stated in formal, sterile language that all furniture, fixtures, and personal items within the property at the time of her stay had been transferred to her as a gift of support during a period of hardship. Attached was a supposed email from me, an email I had never written, confirming the gift. Signed, "With love and hope you rebuild soon." It had my name, my business email, and a signature that looked almost like mine. I sat down. Not on the couch, it was gone. I sat on the cold hardwood floor where it used to be. The betrayal didn't hurt yet. Not really. What I felt was more dangerous. Disorientation. The kind that makes you question not just other people, but yourself. Had she planned this the entire time? The answer settled on my chest like a weight I couldn't lift. Yes. 16 years ago, she borrowed my car and crashed it into a mailbox. I paid the ticket. 12 years ago, she took my first credit card and maxed it on spa treatments. I forgave her. 3 months ago, she called sobbing about her divorce. I gave her my key, told her to stay in the guest room. I was flying to Chicago. I'd be gone 2 weeks. She smiled when I handed her the key, wiped her eyes, said, "You're a lifesaver." No, I was a target. I opened my laptop. The chat thread with Cassidy was empty, deleted, except for one message, left behind like a bruise. "You said you wanted to help. Now help by being quiet." My jaw clenched so hard I thought it might crack. I opened a hidden folder labeled cam_backup. The progress bar blinked. Loading. If she took everything, I hoped she hadn't touched the one thing that could ruin her, the cameras. I thought going back to work might anchor me. A familiar space, measured walls, predictable lighting. Nothing like the emotional wreckage that had become my personal life. I was wrong. The email arrived before I even unpacked my bag. Subject: termination of contract. No greeting, no explanation, just a link. I clicked. The screen filled with a video, bright, overly edited. Cassidy's voice, soft and rehearsed. "Welcome to my fresh start," she said, standing in what used to be my dining room. Only it wasn't mine anymore. It was styled with the same palette I had pitched to one of my biggest clients, a high-end real estate developer. The green velvet, the brass fixtures, even the unique shelf pattern I had drawn by hand. It was all there, in the video, coming from her lips. I kept watching, horrified, as Cassidy walked through my designs and passed them off as her own creative eye. I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. A follow-up email came just as fast, this time from the client. Since these concepts have already been made public, we no longer feel confident proceeding. We wish you well. No phone call, no meeting, just like that. Months of work, gone. She hadn't just stolen my space, she had stolen my name. The betrayal clawed deeper than furniture or paint swatches. It wasn't the objects, it was the identity. The design language I had spent years refining, now rebranded under someone who once called my work a Pinterest board with expensive lighting. 16 days ago, I had shown Cassidy a folder labeled InDev, short for In Development. She had asked casual questions. What's trending these days? She lingered by my mood boards longer than necessary. She called the color scheme calming. I didn't see it then. I only see it now. Dana called later that afternoon. We have a problem, she said, always direct. Your software was accessed last week. By who? By you, she replied. Or someone on your IP address. My throat dried. She borrowed my iPad, said she needed it to check email. Well, Dana said, she checked more than that. We scanned login history, timestamps. She had logged in 4 times, downloaded 3 files, all matching the concepts in the video. This wasn't a reaction. It was preparation, Dana concluded. You weren't just her sister, you were her pitch deck. I didn't respond. I didn't cry. I sat in my studio, staring at my corkboard wall, now stripped bare, years of sketches, concepts, ideas, stolen in a few clicks. I started deleting old folders, not out of spite, out of necessity. If she could steal my past, she wouldn't be allowed near my future. That night, I saw another video from Cassidy pop up. Same setting, same smile. Caption, Healing Through Design, Reclaiming Space After Trauma. I downloaded it, saved it to a hard drive Dana gave me, then whispered to the empty room. You want to build your brand on my bones? Fine. But I get to choose how the story ends. My phone rang while I was halfway through deleting a folder named Showcase_concepts. I'd been clearing out traces of the work Cassidy had paraded as hers, a kind of digital detox. When I saw my mother's name flash on the screen, I hesitated. Then I answered. Marla, she began. Her tone wasn't warm, it was clinical. You could have at least congratulated your sister. She's come such a long way. I froze. I didn't realize stealing my house counts as a comeback, I said. There was a pause. Then, Cassidy told me she's renting that place. She said it was part of her healing process. She's finally doing something on her own. You should be proud. Proud? The word landed in my chest like a stone. She didn't rent it, Mom. She took it. While I was gone, she gutted it, repackaged it, and told the world I gave it to her out of pity. Joyce huffed. Maybe if you weren't so cold with her, she wouldn't have had to do things this way. My pulse throbbed in my ears. Are you serious? She made it feel alive again, Marla. You left it like a showroom. Cassidy said you didn't even use the space. That's when I realized. My mother wasn't just misinformed. She had been inside. 16 years ago, Cassidy crashed her bike the morning of my academic award ceremony. She cried for hours, claimed her ankle hurt too much. Dad said, let's stay, we don't want her to feel left out. I sat in my bedroom, fully dressed in my blue dress and honor cords, watching the clock until the ceremony started. Without me, they never came. Present later that day, I called Gwen, a family friend who still talked to my mom. Gwen was casual, oblivious. Oh, Joyce mentioned she visited Cassidy's new apartment in Pacific Heights, said it looked like something out of Architectural Digest. My stomach twisted. Did she say when? Last week, I think. Cassidy walked her through it herself, said, this is what starting over looks like. Joyce said it was beautiful, that it felt like home. Of course it did. It was home. My home. I hung up and opened my photo app. I scrolled through old pictures, the living room, the fireplace, the gallery wall. All mine, all memories, all erased. My mother had walked through the bones of my life and never recognized it. Maybe she never had. I sat on the floor, flipping through photos, wondering, Had anything I'd ever given been seen? Or was it all just taken? Later that night, I opened a fresh notebook. On the title page, I wrote, "For the things that weren't said." And then I started to list, one by one, every lie Cassidy ever told, every truth my mother chose to ignore. If they won't remember it right, I'll make sure they can't forget it wrong. The envelope was thick, heavy stock paper, sharply folded, sealed in embossed legal branding that tried too hard to be intimidating. It was sitting on the edge of my drafting table, left there by someone while I'd stepped out to get coffee. No note. Just wait. I opened it slowly as if it might explode. Inside, 4 pages, all typed, all perfectly formal, all infuriating. Cassidy had filed a pre-litigation notice through a law firm in the city, one I didn't recognize by name but immediately distrusted. According to the language, I had been engaging in sustained defamatory behavior, emotional harassment, and online targeting that had caused Cassidy emotional distress and reputational damage. She wanted me to stop talking, stop defending myself, stop posting. In other words, she wanted me invisible again. There was even a line that made me laugh, not because it was funny, but because it was textbook Cassidy. My client has tried repeatedly to de-escalate and preserve familial ties with her sister, despite the ongoing hostility directed toward her healing. She stole my house, my work, my name, and now she was hiding behind healing? I grabbed my phone and dialed Dana. My voice was shaking, but not from fear. Guess who's weaponizing victimhood? She didn't ask for clarification. What do you need me to do? Find out who these people are, fast. 16 years ago, Cassidy had once told our high school principal I'd cheated on an English paper. She hadn't done it out of hate. She did it to redirect attention after she got caught skipping class. The story became mine. I got detention. She got away with it. Present Dana called back that evening. Her tone had shifted. You're going to want to sit down. That bad? Not bad. Strategic. She sent over a PDF. The law firm? They weren't just Cassidy's. They were also the ones who handled her ex-husband's finances during his company's collapse. A collapse, Dana added, that resulted in a pending federal investigation. I blinked. So Cassidy's hiding his assets? We can't prove that yet, but this is more than protecting her ego. If your case threatens to expose any paper trail, they have incentive to silence you. She paused. They're protecting her because protecting her protects him. I leaned back in my chair, every memory of Cassidy's strategic charm unfolding like a map. She was never just impulsive, she was calculated. This wasn't just personal anymore, it was systemic. I stayed up until 2 a.m. pulling together everything, screenshots, emails, receipts, real estate documents. I labeled them, numbered them, backed them up to 3 drives. I wasn't going to keep reacting. That's what she counted on. No. Now I would play by her rules, but with my own timing. The next morning, I met with Detective Mercer, private cybercrime investigator, ex-FBI, all gray suit and no nonsense. I slid a flash drive across his desk. My house may be gone, I said, but my data still talks. The footage should have been there. That's what shook me the most. Not that Cassidy had stolen everything, but that she had the foresight, the technical knowledge, to cover her tracks with surgical precision. I sat in my office, fingers hovering above the keyboard, staring at a loading screen that refused to show anything between February 10th and 24th. No thumbnails, no error messages, just absence. A quiet kind of destruction. I didn't delete it. I knew that. I called Dana, my voice clipped. The cameras, the footage is gone. 10 minutes later, she was at my place, hunched over my system with her usual grace under pressure calm. She tapped through menus, bypassed encryption like it was child's play, and then sat back, her face unreadable. She didn't delete anything, Dana said. She disabled the feed remotely. My mouth went dry. When? Midnight on February 11th, right after you landed in Chicago. And the access came from her guest login, your Cassidy_stay account. I swallowed hard. She'd used my own hospitality to blind me. Dana pushed back from the desk and muttered, She didn't just rob you, she scrubbed the crime scene. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. Instead, I opened my phone, pulled up Cassidy's public Instagram. And there it was, neatly edited, perfectly framed, a reposted clip from her live stream. "Hey everyone," she chirped, standing in front of my security hub. "So many of you asked how I keep myself safe while reclaiming space. This system, gifted by my sister. Her belief in me is the reason I'm here." Her voice was smooth, practiced, laced with faux humility. I stared at her fake smile and said aloud to no one, "She used my tools to erase me." I turned to the blueprints on my studio wall, the last untouched fragments of my identity. Cassidy hadn't touched them because she didn't understand them. She only took what she could parade. But that's the thing about blueprints. They aren't the building, they're the plan. And my plan had just changed. She didn't want to ruin me. She wanted to replace me. And she almost did, until now. That night, I sat down and wrote an email. Not to Cassidy, not to Dana, not to the media, to every client I'd ever worked with. Every contact who had pulled away in awkward silence. Subject line: not her story, mine. The body was brief. "You believed a version of me someone else wrote. I'm ready to show you who I am, unfiltered." I hit send. It was the first time in weeks I felt something close to control, until the next morning. My review post, a fact-based breakdown of Cassidy's misrepresentation, was flagged for harassment and removed. 2 minutes later, I got a text from an unknown number. "Stay quiet, or the next file missing won't be just video." I stared at the message, then closed my laptop and whispered, "They want silence. I've only just started to speak." My phone buzzed so much that morning, I thought there'd been another breach. Another server, another backup gone. But when I opened my notifications, it wasn't my name tied to theft. It was my name tied to hers. Catch the new segment on Channel 9? Cassidy Lowell's Raw interview? Brutal and beautiful. I clicked the link. There she was, sitting on the couch that used to be mine, in a room I designed, in a house she stripped bare and repainted as her own. Starting over, one woman's journey from abuse to empowerment. I didn't hear the host's name. I didn't register the applause. I just listened to Cassidy recite the life I had lived, reversed, twisted, weaponized. "She grew up feeling dismissed," Cassidy said, voice trembling, hands folded just loosely enough to seem vulnerable. "My sister always needed control. I think gifting me the house was her way of letting go, in her own way." Letting go? She made it sound like I held the knife and handed her the handle as a blessing. Video clips rolled, Cassidy walking through the foyer, lighting a candle in the kitchen. "This space has been my safe haven," she said. "Every piece has meaning. Every corner carries forgiveness." The comment section was worse. "She's so brave. Imagine being punished for trying to heal. Her sister must be heartless." The emails started soon after. Clients, colleagues, even one of my suppliers. "Just need time to reevaluate," one read. "Hope you understand." I did. I understood they didn't know better. Not yet. Dana showed up 2 hours later, already scrolling through her phone. "The talk show was sponsored by West Haven Living," she said. "Guess who just signed a provisional brand partnership with them last week?" Cassidy. "This wasn't vulnerability, it was PR." "This wasn't about survival," Dana muttered. "It's a full rebrand. She's using your silence as stage lighting?" I laughed, the sound bitter and brittle. "And the world loves a redemption arc." Dana looked at me, all quiet strength. "You're not the villain in this. You're the proof she never had her own life." I stared at the screen, at Cassidy's smile, at the house I'd built, at the life she was performing. And I started typing. No hashtags, no accusations, just facts, a timeline, receipts, purchase orders, side-by-side photos, before, after, real, fake. I posted it to my website. Let them see. That night, Cassidy responded. Graciously, of course. "She's clearly hurting. I hope she finds peace. Let's all send her love." The next morning, my portfolio site was hacked. Just one page remained. White background, bold black text. "You lost. Let it go." She didn't just want my house. She wanted to erase me. The attic smelled like cedar and dust and something older, like regret. I hadn't planned to come back here, but I needed something. Anything. I pulled open the third drawer of an unlabeled chest shoved into the far wall. A box slid forward, brown, worn, taped sloppily on the edges. College. I knew what it was before I even opened it. Inside, among old notebooks and a dried-out wrist corsage, I found it. My high school diary, cloth-bound, navy blue, still intact. I hadn't seen it in years. Thought it had been tossed or lost during one of Mom's famous decluttering rampages. But there it was, heavy in my hands. Back at my place, I flipped it open. The pages were chaotic, slanted writing, rushed entries, some furious, some soft. One dated March 14th. Cassidy borrowed my gold necklace again, said she needed it for an event. I asked her to give it back by Friday. She laughed and said, "You don't even wear it." I hate how that made me feel, like I was selfish for wanting my own things. May 6th. She told Mom I was the one who broke the lamp. I didn't, but Mom didn't ask. She just sighed and said, "It's not worth fighting over." Cassidy smiled the whole time. July 22nd. She said I always act like I deserve more. Do I? My fingers stilled. Each line felt like a bruise coming back in color. Then I found it. A page I hadn't written. Different ink, different slant. A note scratched at the bottom of an entry. "It's not stealing if you were too proud to use it anyway." I blinked. It wasn't mine. I hadn't written that. And I knew, because Dana would later confirm it with a handwriting match. Cassidy had. She had literally written into my thoughts, into my doubt, into my guilt, shaping it before I even had the words to fight back. It wasn't just theft. It was psychological graffiti. I scanned every page, labeled each entry with the year, cross-referenced dates with Cassidy's interviews, her press quotes. The overlap was uncanny, word choices, themes, even anecdotes she'd used publicly, taken straight from my life. "She's not just stealing my life," I whispered. "She's been rehearsing it." I uploaded the scans, built a timeline, tagged emotional manipulation as its own category. For the first time, I stopped feeling like the victim of a story and started feeling like the author of a case. Later that night, I emailed everything to Mercer. Subject, evidence, pattern of psychological manipulation. I sat back, waiting for the upload to complete. My hands didn't shake, not this time. Then my phone buzzed. A new message, unknown number. "Still reading old stories? I'm writing new ones." I stared at the screen. Let's see who edits better. I knew the knock wasn't Cassidy. She never knocked. She announced. But it also wasn't Dana, or Mercer, or anyone else who belonged in this chapter of my life. It was my father. He stood there, manila folder in hand, guilt already written across his face. "I thought you should know," he said, avoiding my eyes. "I helped Cassidy with a loan. She needed a place to restart after the divorce. I used the house." The house. My house. I didn't speak. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't trust myself to say anything I wouldn't regret. "She told me you'd signed off on it," he added quickly. "Said you didn't want to deal with the paperwork, just wanted her to feel secure." He opened the folder, showed me the signature. Mine, or something trying very hard to be. I took the papers silently, flipping through pages that spelled out the transfer of my home as loan collateral. Cassidy had spun her web so neatly, even my father didn't see the threads until he was tangled in them. "You gave her a pen," I said, "and she used it as a knife." 16 years ago. My father once signed a permission slip for Cassidy to skip class and visit a college she never applied to. She told him it was for a scholarship tour. She used the day to shop in the city. I took the same day off for a real campus visit. He forgot. Present, I brought the documents to Mercer the same afternoon. His team scanned the signature, overlaid it with verified samples. He looked up from the screen. "This isn't you. It's someone trained to look like you. The angles are close, but the spacing gives her away." "So she forged legal consent?" He nodded. "That moves this from civil to criminal." Back at Dana's office, we laid it all out. Motive, financial gain, rebranding, control. Method, digital theft, forged documentation. Opportunity, full access to personal accounts and the blind faith of family. "We don't just defend now," Dana said. "We prosecute." I nodded once. No smile, no relief, just cold precision. Later that night, I walked through the house again. My house. Or what was left of it. I stood where my grandmother's cabinet used to be, where Cassidy had set up a fake photo backdrop. This wasn't about furniture anymore. It wasn't even about ownership. It was about identity. She wanted mine because she didn't have one of her own. I opened my laptop, checked my site, still hacked. One blank page. A message. You lost. Let it go. And then another notification. Cassidy had just posted a new video. In soft lighting, she looked straight into the camera. People will say anything when they're afraid to be irrelevant. I walked into Dana's office the next morning, holding the Mercer report. Let her keep talking, I said. By the time she's done, we'll be standing in court, not comments. This isn't just a story anymore. It's evidence. The house was mine again. Legally. Quietly. The gallery wall had been reassembled, though not exactly as before. Some frames hung lower, some were missing entirely, but it stood, imperfect, rearranged, whole in its own way. Maybe that was the point. The fireplace crackled as late spring light filtered through the old curtains. The air smelled like lemon oil and wood polish, but the silence had changed. It no longer stretched like smoke, it held. Cassidy had disappeared from social media the day Mercer's report was submitted to the local press. No court trial ever took place, but in a city that thrives on reputation, she didn't need a conviction to lose everything. Her brand deals vanished. Public sympathy turned to silence. Her final video was a single sentence. I'm taking time to heal offline. Good, let her. I hadn't posted anything since, not even a told you so. It wasn't about proving her wrong anymore. It was about rebuilding what was mine, without apology. Joyce came by the day after the article ran. She didn't call, just knocked, holding a small cardboard box. I found this when I cleaned out the garage, she said. Inside, a faded porcelain tea set, delicate, cracked. One saucer chipped so perfectly I remembered the day I dropped it, aged 9, crying, Cassidy laughing behind me. This belonged to your grandmother, Joyce said. I should have noticed when it went missing. I didn't answer. Joyce stood in the doorway for a moment longer, then, softly, I saw it, Marla. I saw her twisting things, but I was scared of losing both of you. This time, I didn't argue. I just walked to the kitchen and placed the box down. I wasn't ready for forgiveness, but I was done with silence. A week later, I signed the publishing deal. My memoir, titled The Gift That Wasn't. I didn't write it to settle scores. I wrote it to end a pattern. The final chapter didn't end with a scream. It ended with a note. Healing isn't symmetry, it's knowing the cracks, and keeping the structure anyway. I dedicated it to everyone who was told to stay quiet to keep the peace. After the launch, I hosted a dinner, my first in years. No speeches, no posturing, just food, music, and the quiet thrum of people who saw me without trying to reshape me. Later that night, I walked past the mirror Cassidy once tried to sell. My reflection caught me by surprise. I no longer looked like the version of myself she edited into the world. I looked tired, but real, present, enough. Then came the envelope. No return address, thin, handwritten. Inside, a small silver locket. The one I'd lost at 17. Cassidy had claimed she never saw it. Taped to it was a note. Maybe you were always stronger than I knew. I'm sorry. C. She didn't ask for forgiveness, but for the first time, I almost wanted to give it. Sometimes what's stolen from us isn't just physical. It's the quiet dignity of being believed, the peace of not having to explain your truth. I spent years shrinking myself so others could feel big, brushing off small betrayals to keep the family intact. But here's what I learned. The more you stay silent, the easier it becomes for someone else to narrate your life. If you're walking through something similar, if you've been made to feel like you're too much for speaking up or not enough to be heard, let this be your sign. You don't have to shout. You don't have to fight dirty. But you do have the right to take your name back. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt erased in your own story? What would your first sentence be if you could rewrite the narrative? If this story touched something inside you, drop a 1 in the comments or let me know what city you're watching from. And if it didn't, tell me why. I welcome your thoughts. Make sure to subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this one. Sometimes the truth is quiet, but that doesn't mean it's powerless. Let's keep telling it together.